right, gentlemen. Fire up. Try to keep up.
Hi, this is Jar Citizen Gamer, and fuck yes, I love a good trailer. Just as a quick side note before I get started, I'm going to cancel my Let's Play on Aliens because, not because it's a bad game, I love it, but not a lot of interest there, and I totally get it. The game's been out for a while. I'm not bringing anything new to the table with that, but hopefully if you hadn't seen the game or been wondering what it looks like and had never experienced or discovered YouTube before this day, you found something in it that you liked. And I'd like to say happy Thanksgiving to anybody out there this week. And of course this week is the Star Citizen 3-year anniversary sale. All the old ships are kind of coming back on for themed days of pirates or racers or whatever. And I guess there's going to be a culmination in the final weekend. I guess one last blast of all the ships. And of course they unveiled the Crucible. They showed a white box video, and they showed basically the ship itself and the breakdown of the repair mechanics. Now the Crucible is a ship that I actually picked up. I traded in two ships that I had that were kind of redundant. I had the Gladius, and I also had the Retaliator, which to a degree I'd already had the shipping through the Starfarer, and I already had the purchase the Saber, so it felt that the Gladius and the Retaliator was a bit redundant, because I also had a Vanguard as well for torpedo runs. So to me, it made a lot of sense to get rid of those and just finish a last roll for my guild that we really didn't have. And that means pretty much between my friends and my brother, we have every role in the game that you can cover. No one has an Idris, but I don't think anyone in my group really has a lot of interest in a ship that big. But well, maybe Lightning. But of course, that just 3-year stream anniversary was, of course, a few minutes late. That's a CIG tradition, and it was an amazing presentation. From anyone of us that likes to watch the technical ins and outs of a game development, there was a lot of interesting little things. They were showing the Million Mile High Club, and while some people didn't understand the importance of this, it was actually an early and large backer promised reward for those who contributed a lot to the game. And I'm glad to see them every time they fulfill a promise that they had on a stretch goal or anything like that. It's always a great thing to see it coming live to the game. Now back to the Crucible. One of the things that was very interesting to me about this ship was some of its design elements. The most interesting one to me was the fact that the main engines slide along the body to adjust for the center of gravity changes that the ship would have when something is docked inside of it for repairs. And to me, that shows that CIG is bringing physics very much to the forefront of their thought and designing ships with that in mind from the beginning, instead of having to go back and do a lot of redesigns. The ship says it crews 4 people, but it looks like you can do with a lot more in there. And they also showed the new repair mechanics that go along with it. Those mechanics, to me, looked very interesting. Basically, how it works is that, say, like you have a fighter and you dock inside of the Crucible. Well, they're first going to go ahead and basically shave off the broken parts to create a clean repair end. And those parts that they shave off can actually be used as materials for reconstruction. And then basically what happens is basically imagine a 3D metal printer. It goes along the ship and rebuilds it, but it's not just as simple as that. There's a mixing of components and chemicals. There's a mixing, have to use the right amount of heat and things like that. It's a lot of little mini games in there that require skill and attention to bring the integrity as close to the normal factory specs as possible. If you want full factory spec repairs, you'd have to take something like a ship down to a station or whatnot. But for in-field repairs, this is going to bring, you can get your ship pretty close to spec, and it turns repairs into a skillful procedure, which is great because, as we all know, all mechanics are not equal. The live stream had its highs and lows, highs being most of the live stream itself, and the lows being, well, I'm going to bring it out again, Derek Smart. I was watching his Twitter live feed during the presentation, and the man was just, well, pathetic. And I hate to have to rag on somebody like this, but his constant negativity and talking about half finished and not finished this from a man who's made some of the worst games that I've ever played, some of the most buggy, broken, absolutely horrid games. It boggles my mind that this man has any authority to speak about this. Now, he's welcome to say it. I mean, I'm all about freedom of speech. But he came across as an ass, throwing personal insults. When the devs would talk about something, he would twist it. He would basically say, oh, look, you've only got like 16 players in an entire instance, which is not what they said. They said up to 16 ships so they could crew multi-crew ships so that players could experience that as they start ramping up the tech, which is fine. But that's an example how he would take one thing and then twist it to another. He also said the entire time on Twitter, oh, they're not coming out with 2.0 today. They're not coming out with 2.0 today. It's all vaporware, blah, 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 blah. And then they announced 2.0 coming out on the test server. Well, didn't really see him saying I was wrong or anything like that. He just kind of backpedaled through and kept on and throwing insults. But that leads us to the really great news, of course, I just mentioned. The 2.0 Persistent Universe test is now on the test server. And that's a great thing. I think there's a lot of people out there who have really been waiting for this new flight model, new mechanics, and it's all there waiting to be tested. Right now there's 15,000 people who have access to it. I think 16,000. I think they had 1,000 for the first day, and then they opened it up to another 15,000 later on. The rest of us, we may get it later this week, but if not, I pretty much expect to see all of us having access to the PTU with that by next week. One of the things I have noticed from watching a lot of videos out there is that the ships appear to have a lot more momentum, a lot more mass, which is great. I think right now, as it stands on 1.3 and anything before that, the ships have, for the most part, been flying like hummingbirds. And with this change, it's going to make you, well, first of all, it'll help reduce overshoot and undershoot because there is an acceleration on pitching and turning, so you're not just basically move a stick a little bit to the left and suddenly woo, you're way to the left, or just move, it's a mess. But with the new system, it looks like it's becoming more flight centric. Now, I do put a caveat on that because they have actually brought IM interactive mode to the sticks as well. And this is a good thing and a bad thing. There's a lot of people unhappy with it, but I think overall it's a good thing, and I'll explain why. Interactive mode is basically the mode where you put your cursor over the target and your ship kind of follows the cursor, and you end up kind of following your target without doing much direct piloting. Now, what I've noticed here with IM for this new system is that it seems to put you in a situation where if you're using IM, you're sacrificing a lot of maneuverability, a lot more than what you had before. So it's really separating out pilots from, for lack of better words, gunners. And they've also massively reduced the slew rates on weapons. And in fact, the heavier your weapon is, the slower your slew rate. So they've actually figured in mass on that and physics on that. And that's something that I'm very much in agreement with and glad to see. Now, I haven't gotten my hands on it yet. I'm not one of the lucky few, but that's fine. Once this goes live, I'm going to be putting a lot of time into this game to give you my thoughts on the changes as they occur. This is a massive step for Star Citizen, and while a lot of people get confused or don't understand the full nature of it, the single-player campaign is being made by a separate studio. The multiplayer is being made by a studio in Austin. Now, same engine, same ships, they interact with one another, but what a lot of people can't see is the big picture, and the single-player campaign will be out before the Persistent Universe is. The Persistent Universe, the full release on that, I don't expect to be out for half a year or even a full year after the release of the single-player campaign, because there's a lot of mechanics and things they have to gear up, and they're going to have to go through a lot of different beta testing. They're going to have to do the mining, the repair, the salvaging, refueling. There was even a hint on a 10 for the Chairman where they were talking about where Chris Roberts had mentioned kind of offhand that there might be tech coming where planets are going to be procedural. Flying from space to ground will not have loading screens and you'll have full control. Now, I don't want to say that as a definite yet because he hasn't said it as a definite. He mentioned he was going to present something. I guess we're going to go ahead and have to wait and see exactly what that is. So overall, a really great week for Star Citizen. I do want to go ahead and still want to do this review on Warframe. I haven't done it yet. I guess the only nation I live in is procrastination. But I do want to go ahead and tell you just a little bit about it. What my thoughts are on it as a kind of a preview. I have 917 hours into the game. It's free to play in a lot of respects, and I feel some dislikes coming here. But I think it's way better than Destiny. It was pitched a long time ago. It's basically like Destiny, third-person space ninjas, free to play. And it's kind of a roguelite game, but it also kind of mixes, to a degree, card collecting, and that's how you power up your weapons and gears for these kind of cards that you collect. And it's very freeform. There's space, there's flying around, there's melee combat, there's a gunplay, there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of guns. It's smooth, it's beautiful, it's fast-paced. It's really one of the best shooters I've played in a long, long time. And I want to give kind of a walkthrough on that in the upcoming week or whatnot. But this is a holiday week. Last week I wasn't feeling so hot. But this week, of course, now that I am feeling better, we're in a situation where, of course, everyone's going to be too tired after eating mass amounts of dead bird to go ahead and watch one of these ridiculous videos. So anyway, guys, thanks once again for watching. If you have any questions or comments, just go ahead and leave them down below. And I left my new Twitter information there. You can contact me there if you have any questions or news stories or things you'd like me to talk about. And as always, this is Jairus, Citizen Gamer, signing out.